Well, so here we are again, back on Ross Boulevard, my usual route to work. By now, I'm sure you're quite familiar with that already. Oh man, let's look at this bus. It's a perfect example of why that dang emission testing doesn't really work. I mean, when you get the vehicle registered, it's required to pass the emission test at the registration center of LTO or at an accredited emission testing center. But as you can see, it's supposed to have passed the emission testing, but it's belching smoke. Granted, it's a diesel engine, not a gasoline engine, and diesel engines, particularly the older ones, tend to belch out smoke. And granted that smoke that the bus was emitting wasn't dark, it was on the light side, so it's probably not that pollutive, but still, it shouldn't be emitting that much smoke in the first place, at least in my opinion. So I highly doubt that if you were to give that bus an emission test right now, I highly doubt that it would pass the emission standards. So it's quite clear that it somehow cheated the emission test. That that goes pretty much for many of the older vehicles here. I mean, I don't think the newer vehicles with the fuel injection and the computer boxes that regulate the fuel injection system would have any problems passing the emission testing standards. I am talking mostly about the older vehicles, particularly the ones with carbureted engines. We have many very capable mechanics here who can adjust that carbureted engine to just to pass that emission test. I mean, they might have the engine run lean or something, adjust the idle, adjust the air fuel mixture, so that the car would pass the test. I mean, it won't run optimally, it won't function that good, but it would definitely pass the test. And then after the test, the driver can just bring the car back to the mechanic, and the mechanic will readjust the engine to run more smoothly, albeit more pollutively, effectively circumnavigating the test, defeating the whole purpose of the emission test. I think they can do a similar thing with the diesel engine. So there's really there's really no point in this emission testing, in my opinion. It's just a silly requirement that LTO has, requiring the vehicles to pass the emission tests just so it can be registered, so that they can be registered. Now I'm sure other countries have emission tests, required emission testing as well. I'm talking mostly here in the Philippines. These emission tests are useless, in my opinion. I think there's a far better way of going about it. It may not be as effective as setting a standard in terms of cleaning up the air pollution, but it will definitely be more effective, in my opinion, in terms of compliance. So in the long run, I think it would be better for the air quality here in the metro. Now, what is it I'm talking about? I'm talking about doing away with this dang emission test and instead requiring the vehicles to be checked and serviced at accredited shops. They don't have to pass any testing. They just have to take their vehicles to an accredited shop. The shop will service the vehicle, change oil, check the engine, check the electricals, check the lights, and then certify that the vehicle is more or less in perfect running order. They can even do emission tests in the sense that you have before the servicing and then after the servicing, just to show that there has been an improvement in the emission of the vehicle. And that's it. Since there's really no pressure to pass any test, I'm sure many drivers would comply without having to cheat, without having that feeling that they need to do everything that they can just to get around that dang emission testing. At least in my opinion, that's a better alternative, better way of addressing the emission problems of cars and other vehicles here in the country. Now, you might have a different opinion, but that's my opinion on the subject matter. I mean, whenever I register my motorcycle, I see people bringing mechanics with them, or if the driver is relatively knowledgeable in terms of how to adjust the car, particularly the carbureted vehicle engines, they would adjust it until it passes the emission test. For some reason, the guys administering the emission test allows that. Maybe there's something going under the table, or maybe they're just lax in their emission test requirements. Who knows? But I've seen this happen many times through the years. And then after the testing, the driver or the mechanic will simply adjust the engine back to the old setting. So the emission test really didn't do anything to help improve the air quality. So I'm sure many many drivers or owners are honest enough to properly comply with the emission test requirements. This is particularly true for those with newer vehicles, those with fuel injection systems. As I have mentioned, fuel injection systems, I have no doubts that those cars can easily pass the emission standards. Again, I'm talking mostly about the older vehicles, which are, of course, more pollutive in terms of emission. So I don't really see any sense in that. In my opinion, they just used the Clean Air Act as an excuse to require this emission testing. And this emission testing is just one big money-making scheme, not only for LTO but for all people concerned. Which is really sad, really. I mean, it's all for the environment. It's all for our health. I mean, a cleaner environment, you have a healthier population. But just because of the emission testing being a requirement, people do anything that they can just to pass the test. I mean, I don't know how it is in the other countries, but from what I have observed, that's what is happening here. Now I'm sure the authorities, LTO, knows what is going on. They might say, "Oh, we don't know that's going on," but I highly doubt that they don't know what's going on. I highly doubt it. Well, there's really nothing you can do but just gripe and so on. Well, that's it for now. Until next time, keep on riding on, baby.